Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Dr. Paul is traveling. He's giving multiple speeches, traveling to different locations because he's Dr. Paul, and so he's going to be away, so I will be your host for today. As usual on Fridays, before we begin, I'd like to point out our partnership with Birch Gold Group. We highly recommend them every single week because they're in the business of preserving wealth. And boy, do we need that these days. Bills are ridiculous. I know myself, I just received an electric bill. It's the highest electric bill I've ever paid. Our food bills, same deal. It's every time you go to the supermarket, you come back with less, and it's a lot more money. But I don't have to tell you this because you're experiencing it too. Inflation is bad because our government spends way more money than they have. And in order to do that, the Federal Reserve prints money, counterfeits it. This is illegal, but they found their loophole 100 years ago to make this happen. So our dollars are constantly worth less. It's the same as if you had a baseball card that if they kept counterfeiting it or, keep creating more of it, the value of the baseball card drops to nothing, and you eventually, at least in the old days, they used to put them in their bike spokes because it would make noise, and who cares if it was destroyed because it's, you could go get another one very easily. So that's what happens with our dollars. They counterfeit the dollars. The dollar loses value. So now you need more of them to pay for just about everything because, the McDonald's burger hasn't changed. That's been the same my entire life. But the price has changed because the dollar has lost much value. So in order to protect yourself, we recommend contacting Birch Gold. Even, they'll deal with you personally because you can't say, well, what should I do? Well, that depends on the individual situation. There is no blanket answer to that. So if you'd like free information just to begin, you don't even have to start anything. You could just at least, what is this all about? Please text Ron. Go to your phone, text Ron to 989898, and Birch will know that you're coming from us. They will send you free information, and you can go from there. You could go do nothing if that's what suits you, but at least you have some education as to what's available, because most people don't know because we have grown up and lived in a counterfeit dollar, world, and we think that this is normal. And it is in a sense for us, and that's all that we know, but it is very abnormal and very unjust, unethical, immoral. We could go down the line. So please text Ron to 989898. My topic for today that I'd like to discuss with everyone is the one that we just can't seem to get rid of, and that is the endless wars. War should be in the defense of your own nation. If somebody is coming here, they want to take America, you defend. And we could more than defend our nation, as our history, shows us. We have huge oceans protecting us. We have friendly, for the most part, nations around us. So defense of America is not, rocket science. But that is not what America has done over the last 100 years. It has been, let's go out and, loot the world. Not directly, it's not like the British were with India, but very indirectly. And this is how it has been for 100 years. Endless wars, endless coups. If you went and looked up all the coups that this democratic nation has participated in, it would shock you. But most people don't do that. Most people don't care. But you're here and you care. So I urge you, go look up all the coups that the U.S. has supported and outright, wars that we've been in. It's shocking. The list is long. You have to scroll. That's how long the list is. So we are not a nation that sits and defends ourselves. We are a nation that is aggressive, unfortunately, around the world. We bounce from one war to the next. And oftentimes, it's not even bounce. It's multiple at the same time as right now, as we're speaking. There's multiple places that we're involved in that our thumb, and when I say our, I don't mean me and you or the American people, but the politicians and those above them, more importantly than the politicians. So it's constant war, and this is what has bankrupted our nation. As much as welfare is a very big problem in this, it is the empire by far that is the biggest albatross on the American people. It is $1 trillion a year. We're talking money that you can't even fathom per year that is extracted from us, put into debt, 35 trillion into debt that can't possibly be paid. But go to Washington, D.C., go to Virginia or the surrounding areas. They're rich as one could imagine. They're loving life because war is, they tap into the fears of the people. It's just the perfect way to just easily extract money. And people will fight over the most trivial things in the meantime. But the war machine is what has led to the decrease in the standard of living of all of us, me included. We can't even imagine what our lives would be like without it. We can't imagine it because we have no references on what our lives would be like if all of that money was not extracted from us and from future generations. Now, unfortunately, these people are very good. This is a lot of money, so they're very, very good at keeping this going. And what they do is they have both sides of the tightly controlled political spectrum always wanting more. If you were to go to the average person, and the people I speak to, this is, they abhor war. They hate it. Why? And why can't we put any stop to this? But when you put a person into a party, that changes. Then a team mentality takes over, and people start to take things personally. You don't want Obama to be in a war? Well, it's like you're personally attacking this average citizen. How dare you? Same thing with Trump. You don't want Trump or Bush or anyone. Now they're taking it personally from a party perspective, and it's very hard to get out of it. It's very cultish. Oh, my parents were Democrats. My friends are all Democrats. The people I work with are all Democrats or Republicans. Same thing. What am I going to be different? They'll call me names. You're pro-Putin. You're an Ayatollah. You're whatever. And that's how it works. And that's how it keeps people in line that normally they'd be like, this is ridiculous, but they don't want to be different. And this doesn't just extend to war. This is a human nature thing. Think of all the people that took the jabs that didn't want to take them, but they took them because they were pressured by all their social groups, and I'd be upset right now, but that's what they're very good at is moving on to the next thing, generating emotion for the next shiny object. And then the previous crimes, are swept under the rug. So we're dealing with human nature, and the people that have been conducting wars for 100 years know how to exploit human nature. And, the people on our side, and, if I've heard this throughout my adult life, if only Americans knew. There's always somebody, oh, this should be required reading. Everybody should see this video. If only Americans knew. It's more complicated than that. People are willing to shove aside what is blatantly true right in front of their eyes if it means that they remain accepted, if their team wins, if their parents are happy because Bush wins or whoever. So human nature is complicated. And it's not as simple as if only they saw the truth. No, it's they need the truth. That is the way forward, and the truth always prevails. The truth prevailed in COVID. The truth prevails in Iraq and Afghanistan and Ukraine now. It always prevails. So that's not the issue. The issue is the years that it takes for it just to actually emotionally affect everybody to where like, oh my gosh, we can't keep this lie going anymore. And then it fizzles out, but they're already on to the next one. So that's how this has been conducted over 100 years. It is very difficult, but we must speak the truth anyway, the best that we can. And that's not to say that every single syllable mentioned on this show is the truth, but we do our best. We're wrong sometimes, but never purposefully trying to deceive. We're trying to get the truth out. And, and it's for those who are searching for it, because most people, again, human nature, are not searching for it. But you have to at least voice the truth for those who are searching for it. I am indebted to more people than I can count because they put out books, speeches, from decades ago, from hundreds of years ago, from even the Bible. Without that, that's for the people that are searching. Without that, how does anybody get to the truth? So the point is to keep passing that torch from one generation to the next. Keep passing it on for at least those who seek that they're able to find. So that's why, despite the fact that it's very hard, even though people won't accept the truth, even though they know it, it has to be done, because that's how humanity keeps moving forward. Otherwise, if we're all living by lies, it's all over. Fortunately, there's always a remnant of people that are passionate about the truth. They don't care about being accepted. They don't care about being called names. They don't care if their friends don't like their position. They don't care. They love the truth, and boy, is that something to love, if anything, because living from one lie to the next is a very frustrating life, So there's no, there's no incentive to do that other than, being accepted by others. So the way that the war party, deep state, whatever you want to call them, the people behind the politicians, they know how to get both sides in their own way to support war and censorship. Now, left and right are different. There's the way people on the left think, the way the people on the right think, and everybody in between. That's not to say that everybody fits into each side. It is different. So if you're going to get this side and this side all to support war, you're going to have to do it differently. You're going to have to appeal to different emotions, different base instincts. So that's, and they've mastered that. And that's why both sides give us wars. They both give us world wars. They both give us regional wars, little wars, coups. Both sides have done it. It's almost as if it's a tag team, but it's not. They're just both manipulated to do the bidding of, again, the people that are above the politicians. So with the left, we had the Afghanistan, the Libya, Syria. We just had the Ukraine. That was a leftist bonanza. They kept shoving that Ukrainian flag in everybody's face. That cost us $200 billion, that flag, for a war that could not be won. Everybody knew it from the beginning. And by everybody, I mean everybody, that understands Russian history. And, and if we're spending $1 trillion a year, supposedly, to fend off Russia and China, how is little Ukraine going to possibly defeat them? It was virtually impossible. Now, is it literally impossible? Perhaps there was a small chance. I don't know the odds, the perfect odds, but the long shot, it was such a long shot, and that cost us $200 billion and more. They're still going. So that was the left, and the right was pretty good. On this is not right, and they're good against the woke. But then once this Ukraine is fizzling out, now we're being maneuvered into other areas like Venezuela. What do we have to? Who cares about what's going on in Venezuela or anywhere else? Are they attacking us? No. Are they a threat to us? No, but the right has their marching orders too, that they receive from their so-called influencers, from the president, or the former president, from Elon Musk. So now we have, an election in Venezuela that, you want to talk about elections. We are the furthest from the standard on how elections should be run. So we should have nothing to say about elections anywhere. But that is not how the ego of the American empire works. We have a say everywhere, regardless of how bad our elections are. So look at this. I'm just going back now. I'm not even talking about today. Look at this image. This is from April of 2002. Look at on the bottom left, the date. Venezuela coup linked to Bush team. So we're going back decades now that the U.S. has been manipulating coups, trying to meddle in Venezuela's affairs. Venezuela is not a U.S. state. Venezuela is not a part of America. What do we have to do with her? Oh, they have the largest oil reserves in the world. That might be a reason. Do you think our government cares about their democracy any more than they care about our democracy? Absolutely not. They have the largest oil reserves in the world. And if you want that, or you want to control it indirectly, directly, however, the incentive is to meddle in what's happening in Venezuela. And even sadly, our former President Trump, he said, quote, "When I left, Venezuela was ready to collapse. We would have taken all that oil," end quote. I mean, this is how unethical, this is basic stuff. You don't take a nation's oil, but we do it. And President Trump was involved and today, I believe, we're still stealing Syria's oil. So now they want to steal Venezuela's oil too, flat out admitting it. We would have taken all that oil, President Trump said. John Bolton, back in 2022, a couple of years ago, he said January 6th, this was on TV, January 6th wasn't a coup. I should know. I've planned many. Just look at what we tried in Venezuela. So they brag about trying to pull off coups. In 2019, the U.S. dictated to Venezuela, this guy, Juan Guaido, he's going to be your president, not who you voted for at the election. We pick Juan Guaido. That fizzled out, didn't work. But they didn't stop. That was 2019. Here we are, 2024. And I read yesterday, United States officially declares Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of Venezuela's presidential election against Nicolas Maduro. The United States officially declares this guy as the winner. I mean, this is comical stuff, but this is real. This is how it goes. And Americans, now Elon Musk tweeted good to this. They think this is normal. This is what we do. We declare their winner. Now, what if another country did this to us? Why is this so hard to understand? What if another country came here, we had our election, and they say, we declare the winner of your election to be this person. And we're going to steal your oil too. This is not so hard to understand. But again, most people don't know this or care. But for those who know and care, this is how our country conducts business, quote unquote. And if you have something to say about it, oh, you support a communist dictator. This Maduro's a dictator, communist. This has nothing to do with Maduro. This has nothing to do with anybody other than I am an American citizen. American government is my government. So I refuse to believe that it is their role as my government to go and declare winners in other countries. Okay, this has nothing to even do with the other country. This has everything to do with my government as an American citizen. We have problems that are overflowing in this country now. To think that they should be meddling in Venezuela and in Ukraine and Taiwan and Iran and Israel and in Gaza and just globetrot around the world it would be a failure as an American citizen to say that this is fine, let our country go to waste, because that's basically what's happening, whether people realize it or not. And while we're still on the topic of the right, it's not just Venezuela. This is the real danger that can really spiral into something very, very bad for our country and for the world and for Israel and for everyone. And that is, if a war breaks out regionally against Iran, because that means war with Russia, with China. They do not want, any more than Russia wanted the United States on their border in Ukraine. Both Russia and China have interests in making sure that Iran remains stable. So that is a very hot issue, and we don't want to go. It's a shame I even have to say this. Go to a war with Russia and China and Iran and anybody else that they pull on their side. Okay, that is not the way to peace and prosperity. That's, take the next 5 to 10 years and flush them down the toilet for your own life, because economically and perhaps even, God forbid, physically, we'd be, in grave danger. And so nobody should want that. But the right, here they go, and here I have a tweet that I took a screenshot of. I'm going to put it up. But first, before I put it up, if you were to ask President Trump, Republicans, conservatives, do you trust CNN? They would rant and rail, rightly so, on why they do not trust CNN. And be like, well, how about the intelligence agencies? Do you have a lot of trust in them? Again, rightly, they would beat your ear on the intelligence agencies. Of course not. What are you talking about? Why would you listen to CNN, U.S. intelligence? Take a look at this tweet. Breaking. CNN reports, based on U.S. intelligence, that Iran is using a covert campaign to undermine Trump's candidacy. Now, think back to what I was saying. We have the left and the right. You have to deal with them differently. You have to appeal to their base instincts. So you have to use wording and imagery to get them to support the war that you want. So this is how you do it. Now, is it true about Iran? Who knows? I don't know. But based on the sources, CNN, U.S. intelligence, do you think maybe you should, critically think about it? It's meant to generate a reaction, and the reaction is coming. If you turn on today, any of the mainstream stuff, which I never turn on, I just see it on the internet, it's meant to generate a reaction. The Ayatollahs, this, that, the jihadis, and they're just beat it into your ear. We're moving on from Ukraine. We're moving on. So it's to beat into your ear a new, enemy for you to fight. And that's not to say that Iran is, I have no thoughts about Iran. I know very little about the country. So, but this has been for decades. We're going back to the 70s that this Iran, problem has been constantly being brought back in front of the American people. And God forbid a major war breaks out, you can count on the same exact things happening. As you're walking through the stores, as you're walking through the airports, it'll be the Ayatollahs in your face, the billboards, your college professor, the entertainment, on the shows, every angle, it'll be anti-Iran. And again, we're going to talk about I want to fit in. Do you want to fit in, or do you want to be called an Ayatollah? So you could expect that to happen. Most people will want to fit in. They will not want to say that this is wrong. We should not be doing this. Israel is not the United States. This has nothing to do with us. But again, this is the pattern. This is why this has been happening for 100 years. And you know, it's not inevitable. People, wars have been averted. I remember we were so close in Syria, and the British, after the British said no way because they were concocting some story on Syria, on Assad, and then eventually Obama, I believe, had to back down. So it's not inevitable. But once you see how this works, you at least know what you have to counter. It's very basic. Just protect America. This is bankrupting us. Why do you think our lives are getting harder and harder? And a war would make them significantly harder. I've had family members involved in war. I don't ever want to experience even a fraction of what they experienced. But, these things, and for most people, it'll be a surprise. What's going on? How is this? It's a big surprise. But, for those who follow this closely enough, no, it's not. This is just a progression. It's just that we're so distracted with everything else that it comes as a surprise to most people. So the best we can with the tools that we have the internet these days. So war is definitely not inevitable. We can use it to our advantage, like we're doing right now. I'm speaking to people right now, and you can speak to people, and then exponentially the same thoughts spread, and then who knows what can happen. Good stuff does happen. In conclusion, I read the other day that Kamala Harris, she wants to do the Californication of the United States, turn the United States into California. And there's probably truth to that. But the first thought that came to my mind is this is how the rest of the world sees us. The U.S. empire is the Californication of the world. Take a look at those Olympics, So they look at us, our nation, as we look at California. And the same that we want to be left alone for, California, you do what you want over there. I don't care. I don't live there. If this is how you want to live, have at it. It's your life. That's how the rest of the world looks at us. United States, you want to do this whole gender thing, you have at it, but you're not coming over here and forcing this on us. And that's what it is. Our way of life, which has been totally flipped upside down, it would still be wrong, but you don't bring what was formerly our way of life at our founding. You don't impose that on the world either. But what they're trying to impose on the world today is this, what we're living through, what we don't even like. So how are they supposed to like it? The solution to all this is to bring the troops home. But there has to be enough people that don't want this. And unfortunately, as with COVID, the pain has to get so great that it's at that point that you said, I've had enough. And we don't want the pain to be so great with a World War III. That's too great of a pain. We can't wait for that to happen in order to have enough of this. We have more than enough problems here. I've been alive long enough to see a massive change in our nation. Sickening changes. Not even like, every generation's different. It's sickening, and even what has happened on our border, just allowing anybody come in and while you're here, vote too. It's not just about votes, because how important is voting anyway? We see that it changes virtually nothing. Even with the first Trump administration, very, very, very little changed for the good. Now, would a second be different? I don't know. I would like to hope so, but I'd have to say it first, So this is not about voting. It's just the people that run this stuff. The number one thing that they fear is any type of unity with the people. And that's why people are fighting over the stupidest things you could possibly imagine, every single day. Insignificant stuff. Because if there is unity, then they got a problem. And when you just open your borders and allow people in, and this is not judging individual people and what they are, but they're not Americans. There's no common culture. There's no common ideas of this is how we do things. This is what's, how America works. No common language now. So that is one way to make sure that unity does not happen, because it's just fostering new problems to keep people occupied. And then the people above the politicians can keep going, on whatever their plans are, making sure that there will be no united front in the United States of America. We've made sure of that. Now, that's not to say that it can't happen and won't happen, but I'm sure they're doing everything they can to make sure it doesn't happen. So, but in the meantime, we have to be optimistic, because the way that the truth works is, and the way that the good stuff works, is it always happens when it's not expected. It's not planned. That's why the bad guys always lose. We didn't think of that. We thought of everything. Look, we did this, we did censorship, we did this, but we didn't think of that one thing. And that one thing is what ruined everything. Because that's why we have to remain eternally optimistic, because that's the way that good, the truth, and all that makes life worth living happens. It happens unexpectedly, unplanned, and our job is not to make that happen. Our job is to just speak what we believe is true, what we believe is in the best interest of our nation, and then hope for the best. Do the best that you can in your own family life, because that's where it ultimately matters. You're going to experience your own life, your own version of this, as am I. So we have to shore up our own little mini kingdoms here, and then hope that the truth that you speak makes a difference for others out there. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.